Welcome everybody. I'd like to thank you for watching my first ever video in my new series, Remote Work, My Journey. And the purpose of this video series is for professionals in the lean agile DevOps spaces to share their really valuable journeys doing remote work. And today, I am privileged to have Siddharth Pareek, who is a consultant, a DevOps practitioner. He's also a DevOps Institute ambassador. He coaches. He does all kinds of cool things. Well, he's going to tell his journey on his remote experience. And I'll let Siddharth kind of introduce himself, and we'll take it from there. Okay, Siddharth, over to you.
Hey, hi Don, hi everyone. My name is Siddharth Pareek. I work for NatWest Group, and our group is banker branch. If you've heard of banks like NatWest Market, NatWest International, Royal Bank of Scotland, Coats Bank, Adam and Company, and there's a list goes on and on. We're based in Edinburgh. I'm residing currently in India, New Delhi. Uh, what I do is I'm part of the Global DevOps Center of Excellence practice team, which looks after the policies and standards, guidelines, cultural per se of mindset change for the people in the DevOps transformation journey. But the aim is not DevOps transformation. The aim is bringing business value. We are playing our bit or role in per se to the DevOps.
Awesome. Very good. All right. And the first question I have is, can you kind of walk through your experience prior to the pandemic? What type of remote work did you do, and kind of share for the viewers your experience on that front?
Okay. I'm based in India, and the business for NatWest Group is primarily in Europe and in some bit and portions in the US. So what we've been doing is we have been working along with the technologists within India in person. However, the remote work setup for talking to people, engaging with business in Edinburgh and elsewhere has been completely remote. Uh, our organization has been very supportive. I think pre-pandemic, the last year itself, we moved on to having the Zoom conversations in order to have more face-to-face conversations. Because we thought that technology is one aspect, but the human touch is another aspect. So you need to have the culmination of the technology plus the human touch, and hence we started having these practices of we having the Zoom calls, and it was not sort of mandatory but sort of encouraged to have a video conversations rather than the audio conversations. The other thing was we started to have a set up our video conferencing room. So you don't have to go on the typical audio setup and have the meeting with the people around the globe. You need to have the video conferencings with those people. So that was pretty much encouraged since last year itself. Good to see, those encouragements, those setups, those infras. Uh, we got a bit of learning accidentally, uh, you know, during the pre-pandemic times.
Very good. So, would you say, from your configuration of the teams, were you 100% remote, or do you have some folks that were remote, kind of? Can you describe that a little bit?
We were not 100% remote, and we cannot be 100% in person as well, because the technology setup of NatWest Group is primarily based in India, whereas the business setup, the business folks, the customers, the users are there in places in Edinburgh, London, other business areas in Europe and in US. So definitely it was not 100% remote or an in-person setup. But yes, it was more than I would say. The technology team per se, the team which I work closely, they were working hand in hand in person. but the conversations we used to have with business users and customers, that was 100% remote.
Okay. Okay. So, what were some of the practices that you used pre-pandemic to connect the teams that were developing the solutions with the actual people who they're developing the solutions for, so they could kind of get that empathy for them, and that type of thing?
As I said earlier, also, we started having these practices of having more of a video conferencings. Point one. Point two was we started to move into more collaborative tools to work in hand. For example, uh, we started, encouraging the businesses to have conversations rather not on email, but let's say, when we are talking about Jira, Epic, or Theme, let's have on those tools itself rather than floating across emails. The other thing that we did good was that we started to have those planning sessions with the business folks at the early stages of our development, and that too, more of a video in-person conferences. We started to sending across our technology team people selectively to at the business sites, so that the
Yeah.
gap in the conversations could be bridged up. uh, and it was like more of a rotational basis. The people were sent across so that they don't only understand the customers more closely, but they understand the culture as well.
Okay, very good. Yeah, so then they're kind of developing a somewhat of a relationship with it in some respects, kind of really digging in to understand their wants and needs better, leveraging that technology, the video conferencing. I couldn't agree more with that. You're basically trying to simulate in-person communication so that you can do like this, and your fist of five, and all those fun things. And that is awesome. Is there anything more that you would like to share pre-pandemic before we dive into what changed or didn't change when you had to do more, pretty much all remote work?
I think we were, and I think we, not we, but as a human fraternity, we were complacent enough of going to offices, and that is the thing that we hoped for everyone else elsewhere also, that there cannot be a situations where we have to work remotely. There would be some in-person touch, there would be some in remote touch. So we became a little complacent towards our nature, uh, towards the people around us, in sense of we didn't focus on our mental well-being also. We were kind of working from office, coming to office, going back to home, and sitting around couches and sleep, and then come. So we didn't got chance to think about our the mental well-being. We didn't thought about having closeness with our families, and I think that was pretty much with most of the people on earth.
Okay, so then you were able to kind of establish a kind of a relationship outside of work pre-pandemic because you were able to see one another and talk in that regard, and because you were there in person, co-located to some degree, at least from some of mainly the technologists being co-located. Were you able to get kind of that closeness with your business people that the folks were developing, or did you kind of really just focus on the business?
We There was certain gaps, as I said earlier, also of having conversations with the business folks, and that is why we moved on from having audio conversations to video conversations. That is why we started engaging with business in early phases of our development. That is also the reason that we started having the exposing our team to the business folks as well.
Yeah,
We
very good.
didn't, yeah, we didn't shy away of only the leads, or the project managers, or the product managers, or the product owners will have conversations with business people, but everyone can have conversation with business folks, and vice versa. So it was many to many sort of relationship earlier,
Uh,
which was many to one relationship or one to many sort of relationship.
Very good. So, did you all, did the teams, the product teams, do demonstrations over video of the completed solutions to get that feedback from the customers and the end users and that type of thing as well?
Yes, absolutely. We did that too. And it was happening earlier also, but there was no human touch. There was no face-to-face conversations, but we encouraged that aspect as well.
Okay, awesome. All right, so now we're going to dive into, okay, the pandemic hit, right? And what changed? What didn't change? What things evolved and that type of thing? How was it different after once the pandemic hit, when everyone pretty much has to be working remotely?
Okay. The first thing that happened was it was bit of a question mark and a big question mark for everyone from top to bottom and bottom to top of can this happen? Can this happen that everyone within the organizations sitting at that home and things may work, the business may work as usual? Can we bring those business value, business benefits as the business was expecting us pre-pandemic? Because we started this COVID pre-pandemic, sorry, the pandemic situations somewhere where in March, and we committed for our deliverables, for our goals, for our visions way back in January. So, do we need to have those conversations again? If yes, to what extent we can accomplish to what we agreed in January or February? Uh, so this was a big question mark. The second was is how about the infra part? How could the business supports everyone through infrastructure? There may be people who do not have internet connections.
Yeah.
There may be people who do not have the system, the laptop, the desktops. There may be people who do not have the requisite infra like your tables and chairs. There may be people uh, who do not have the remote setups of working it. They don't have an experience, for example. So all these were big question marks, but I think during the pandemic, all these got sorted, settled, and majorly it happened because of the business. I won't say the business, right, but the intent of the NatWest group for championing the purpose for everyone, not just for the people inside, but the people outside as well.
Yeah, yeah. And interesting. Yeah. So a lot of anxiety going into it, but like what was one of the first major aha moments for you and your teams and in your company and everything when you at the beginning?
The first and the foremost aha moment for us was can how sooner can we bring all people to this remote work life, get them connected on remotes, get them connected on their systems remotely so they can start working. May not be 100% utilization, may even be 10%, we are okay with it, but how go from 0 to 10%?
Yeah, yeah.
So so when the teams within our space and started working remotely, we said yes, we see light at the end of the tunnel.
Very good. Very good. Let me see. I want to look at my questions here. Okay, so one of the questions I have: were you able to apply pre-pandemic remote working practices, or did they really have to? It was a completely different situation.
I think we were able to, but since it was an exceptional scenarios times which needed some exceptional uh, way of working as well, so we need to customize it, we need to mold it, uh, and that is the reason we said that we emphasized on three things within the organization. One thing is how can we have a psychological safety for everyone working for the organization? How could we ensure the mental well-being of the people? because there may be people who may be going through a lot of hysterical or a lot of pandemic, post-pandemic. How should I put it? There may be people who are affected by it directly. There may be people who
Yeah.
may be affected indirectly by it. So how can we ensure the mental well-being of those people?
Yeah,
And
sure.
third thing is, um, in this all of situations, how could we have more work-life balance for people? They should
Yeah.
not be, yes,
That's a
they
yeah,
should
that's
not.
a good. It's a good call because everything's you're there. Every work and life is all right there. It's just so that's fascinating. I need to back up. You have mentioned that you started off okay. We wanted to get 10% of the people, and how quickly did you get to 10%? And then, kind of, how long did it take to get to like 80%? Kind of that progression. What kind of walk me through that journey to get to where you got comfortable with close to everybody on board on our remote.
In my experience, what I've seen people, I cannot vouch for the whole organizations, but what I've seen in the people, everyone was able to work remotely within 2 weeks' time.
Nice.
They were
Okay. You're
able
talking
to
100%,
connect. Yes,
100% in
uh,
2 weeks. That's pretty amazing.
yes. However, there were certain challenges of they are not having the right internet connection. They do not
Yeah.
have the proper, accessories like tables and chairs. So we did the setup of it, and it took another quarter for people to have their laptops, desktops from the organizations, the tables and chairs, and the internet connection support. We also introduced for people to reimburse their internet connections for a certain grade and band of people as well.
So in other words, you were able to provide them with like Wi-Fi or some way to get internet. If they were having some difficulties, you were able to solve their internet connection problems with some certain solutions.
What we stated for the people out here was that you vouch for any internet connections that is their best that you can help out, and the organization would reimburse that amount for you. So you don't have to, be concerned about the extra cost that is going from your pockets.
Oh, very good. Very good. That's awesome. So now, once you got everybody going, you got everybody online, and you're kind of starting to get a feel for it. What was like a big like failure that you learned a ton from in that regard? What was something that because failures are learning. Anytime you're failing when you're trying these experiments, and it's always good to kind of get a sense people are not afraid to fail, right? Because you got to experiment, and sometimes your experiments don't produce the results you're hoping for.
Okay, as you said, failures are a bit of learning. So I would use the word learning rather than failures for us.
Yeah.
The experiments that we did. Uh, we said that okay, one of the things we tried is let's have one day where we'll not talk about any work during our stand-ups. We'll only talk about or we'll have some events every fortnight or so for the people where they come in and just have bits of highs, lows, and bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
But however, my view again, it's not an organizational view. My view is the people thought it was bit of overhead for them. They
Ah,
wanted to not stay on the screen, rather stay off the screen.
gotcha. So your hypothesis that this was an opportunity for people to bond and get to know one another and things, but and the reality of the situation is they would just have soon been off the screen and with their families. Is that kind of an accurate statement?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now,
The
what if this was done during even when it's during work hours?
Yes, absolutely. They say that as per their view, they thought that the more we are off screen, the more we can have our more kind of correlation to the mental well-being because the screen time was increasing. uh, for the people out here. You don't have the full, sort of 9 to 5 hours. You're sitting at some point and you get up at some point. You don't have anything else to do. So you are watching movies on the screen. Your kids are also there on the screen. You are also there on the screen. So how
Oh,
about having off-screen conversations rather than on-screen conversations?
gotcha. I got you. Finding the balance of video conferencing is what you're trying to do. And um, so about how much time during the day did you kind of land on for the right balance of being available for video conferencing and that type of thing? Or did it just kind of vary?
No, we did a lot of variations. We say that, okay, may not be those events. Let our leadership team within different business areas talk to the people on the grounds. So the regular conversations during pre-pandemic, we used to have probably once in a quarter, once in a month of those conversations, which got increased to once in a fortnight, so that
Uh,
people can talk directly to the leadership team and vice versa in order to address any innovations, any questions, any concerns that they have, not just for this pandemic time, but how the organization can support them.
for sure, for sure. I mean, it's a change management thing. Change management is all about communication. This is clearly some changes that are going on and how we're working. And so the leaderships want to make sure people are comfortable with it and support them in any way, shape, or form. But because they wanted to communicate more, there's more screen time for people then. Is that pretty accurate what you're?
Absolutely. Second thing we also focused on was diversity and inclusions
Ah,
during this time. Uh, the NatWest group is very much supportive of DNI initiatives. So we increase those DNI initiatives uh, for the people, for the community of the organization. The third thing that we more focused on is how could we reward people for the work that they're doing, because that
yeah,
was the assessment that needs to done. How could we measure their OKRs for the given quarters? So should we reduce it, or uh, also one great thing that the organization that did was they did not you know uh, because of the banks, the NatWest Group being a bank at the business core area, has a lot of NPAs, a lot of bad debts, a lot of loans that came across. So how could the NatWest Group could support those their customers in this pandemic times was the focus. And lastly, we do not wanted our employees to be excluded from the organization because of we were not performing great this year. We said we will not exclude anyone from the organization. We will not move out anyone from the organization, and we stick with it. That
oh,
brought a great mental well-being for people.
yeah, that is amazing. That's pretty awesome. Well, I have one of my last questions is based on your overall experience pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, what is the most important thing that you and your teams learned and your organization from that standpoint? Um, and then what practices do you recommend for anybody who's doing remote work? That's what I have in my last question here for you. And did I pronounce your name correctly? I have Siddharth Pareek.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. I'm wanted to make sure. All right. Sorry, I'll let you go.
The first thing is why due to this pandemic, uh, I know there were voices around and there were people who believed it, but now there are more counter people who believe the world is a volatile situation. It can You do not need to be complacent enough with what you're doing. Uh, so the organizations need to think of how they can move ahead in their digital transformation journeys, cloud transformation journeys, and they have not been so much serious about it until this pandemic came. But now you'll see more people about serious about this. Uh, the second thing is that from the individual standpoint point of view is you need to think of how you can upskill yourselves. and
Ah,
you need to be upskilled enough so that you can, uh, you know, be remain valuable to this volatile situations. So upskilling as in, maybe some certifications, upskilling as in reading some books, upskilling as in contributing back to the communities. So that is the second most important thing. The third thing is, and coming back to what I said previously also, you need to have empathy, sympathy for the people around you. And are many ways you can do it for your family, but for your community, one of the ways that you can do is share your knowledge. Share your knowledge with as many communities as possible, not just for financial gains, but maybe
oh,
for non-financial gains as well. And what I've seen over the period of time, Don, is the more you share, the more you learn out of it. So that is
that's
what my mantra has been always.
I couldn't agree more with that statement. The more you share, the more you learn, and that's why I'm starting this video series. I want people to share so we can learn, and so the people who are sharing can learn as well. I know there's a lot of people that are struggling with this whole remote thing, and I kind of want to know what solutions from a collaboration standpoint have emerged that you didn't have pre-pandemic that you do now have that help you more with remote work. That is something I wanted to kind of delve into.
Yeah, good question. So one of the tools that we have started using more rigorously is the Microsoft Teams, and we have started having conversations over there. We have started to having our initiatives, community events. The second tool that we have started using uh, is integration of tools like visual boards. uh, Earlier, we were using whiteboards in the organizations, but
Yep.
that is no more the case. We started using whiteboards, something like your lean kit, to have a visual representation of the work that is happening. The third thing is, the tool which you started using is now the discussions that used to happen earlier used to happen on a with a pen and paper. The group of people coming down and sitting down and brainstorming a lot of ideas. Again, that is also moved out. That is also not the case. So we started tools using like Mural for
Yes.
having the ideation phase for the people across the global community. The three tools we started using more often, more actively during this pandemic for the collaboration with the business and the IT.
Very good. That's what I was hoping to capture. If you think of anything else once I get this posted, and if you think of anything else, you can leave comments out there. And of course, always like when folks subscribe and like my channel. So that would be great. And again, Siddharth, I really appreciate you sharing your journey. If you have folks on your team in different roles, like a product owner, I'd like to hear from somebody in various specific roles. That would be kind of cool to hear from those types of folks in one of these things, in one of these interviews. So. Again, thank you very much. I think I'm going to go ahead and close it here now. Hey, people who are watching this, if you would like to kind of share your journey, your remote journey, reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to me here on YouTube. My name is Don White. My consulting firm is Agility Science LLC. Thank you and have a great rest of your day, everybody.